Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 12 of the Movement as Medicine podcast. We have a very special episode for you today. I have an interview with my friends, Noël and Sanne brand over in Breda, Netherlands. They own Breda Strength and Conditioning. We just recently did a CFSC level 1, level 2 combo there with them a couple weeks ago. And I wanted to take that opportunity to sit down and talk with them about their experience in gym ownership, a little bit about both their personal stories, their personal passions and projects that they're working on. They do an amazing job running this facility. I got to be there firsthand and hang out with them and see how they operate, see how they interact with their clients, see how they run their business. And most of all, I got to know them a little bit better as friends in the industry who I met a couple of years ago. The last time I came here, I really got to sit down and spend a little bit more time with them this time and learn about them and their personal interests and really what makes them tick. And they're really two amazing people, and I think you're really going to enjoy this episode. So with no further ado, enjoy. Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 12 of the Movement as Medicine podcast. And this is a special edition coming to you here from Breda. Say it, Breda. I said it correctly. I kept saying Breda before. So Breda, Netherlands. We just had our CFSC level 1, level 2 here at Breda Strength and Conditioning with Noël and Sanne. This is their home. Thank you for hosting and thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. And so it's a pleasure to have them on the podcast. I first came here, it was almost 3 years ago, right?
Yeah.
2019.
2019. I was here for a CFSC level 1, and now 2022, we're back. And we just finished up the weekend. We just finished up level 2. They passed.
Yay.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't have worn the shirt if I didn't pass.
And so cheers to that.
Thanks
Yes.
for the awesome seminar.
Yes. And this is a very special beer, if you care to actually share what it is that I'm drinking here.
So for the people watching at home, not listening, but watching, I'm holding up a beer that is brewed especially for us. It's called Built to Last beer, which is our motto, Built to Last. It's a 10% barley wine. It comes in a very user-friendly big bottle. It is 0.6 liters. It's a barley wine, 10%. And Bliksem is the local brewer who makes the beer. My tattoo artist designed the label. And the members of Breda Strength and Conditioning can drink this beer for free at our anniversary every year. We have an anniversary barbecue. Last year we had our 10-year anniversary. Going to have our 11-year anniversary this September.
Which is an amazing feat as a small business owner and a gym owner. They say, at least I know in America, the two fastest closing businesses are gyms and restaurants. And so that fact that you're coming up on 11 years also just went through a pandemic. So I think probably the businesses that were affected most were gyms and restaurants. So that's pretty unbelievable. And I think we'll probably get into talking about your entrepreneurial history, the ins and outs of running a business. But before that, if you both could maybe give a little background about yourself, maybe your story about, how you came into strength conditioning and that'll kind of take us right into the story about you running the gym.
Yeah. All right. So the more Kevin drinks of the Built to Last beer, the better the podcast is going to be. So cheers, my man. My name is Noël Brand. I'm the co-owner and head coach at Breda Strength and Conditioning, and we run the gym together. My wife, my awesome and amazing wife, Sanne. 11 years ago, I started this strength and conditioning gym along with somebody else. After about, I'd say, 2.5 years, actually like 4.5 years, we kind of went our separate ways. But before we went our separate ways, luckily, Sanne was part of the management and kind of steered the ship away from just, imminent disaster, just took the helm. I started the gym, Breda Strength and Conditioning, because I wanted a place to train a certain way, and it wasn't around. I got into touch with strength and conditioning more and more during a deployment to Afghanistan with the Royal Netherlands Marine Corps. I was in the Marine Corps for 14 years. Then started the gym, had 2 jobs for about 7 years, eventually got to a spot within the Marine Corps as a corporal, as a physical training instructor. The gym running very well, thanks to Sanne and all the awesome members and clients and coaches, that I could do it full time. Really got into the coaching, really got into the continued education, and the gym was running kind of smoothly, but not very well. But it was kind of doing okay. Then eventually, my wife kind of joined in, and the gym actually really took off, and it got us to where we are right now.
Yeah, thanks. So my name is Sanne Brandbominaar, and I'm, of course, the second co-owner of Breda Strength and Conditioning. So how I got into strength and conditioning is probably, well, I've been in sports for like 18 years now. And I started off as a group class instructor, just a regular Les Mills instructor, doing it just on the side of my regular job as a marketing coordinator. I really love coaching people and helping them to feel better and stuff like that. But it was also always been a side job. Mm-hmm. So then I got, I'm not sure if you say that in English as well, but burned out. So I had a burnout, and I really started focusing on, so what does make me happy, and actually I figured out that this makes me happy. So training people, but I wasn't doing strength and conditioning at that time. So I started, I had a lot of free time at home because I was recovering, and I started joining the gym that I strength and conditioning about, I think, 10 years ago. Started training there.
So we had a client coach relationship. Nice.
Yeah,
a successful one though. So that's okay.
So what we said off camera before we started, I liked her the minute she came around the corner, and I was like, oh wow. I really like her.
Yeah.
Back then I was still in a relationship, and we didn't pursue anything, obviously, clean and everything, but then after that I was like, oh, I really like Sanne.
Yeah. So I started working out at Breda Strength and Conditioning, and still having my regular 8 to 5 job, and doing group classes at a different fitness gym, whatever. And then gradually I started shifting towards strength and conditioning, but also in educational purpose. So I started doing courses, education on strength and conditioning, personal training and nutrition, stuff like that, and really tried to level up. And at a certain point, I quit my regular job and fully went for it, being not a co-owner then, but just being self-employed personal trainer at another facility, and then eventually going to Breda Strength and Conditioning because things didn't work out at the other end. And he asked if I could be
part of the team.
Yeah, actually, yeah.
Part of the management, yes. Definitely.
Yeah, because they were like, because there were two guys just doing their hobby really well. Absolutely really well, but it kind of what you said, it was kind of like it needed a female touch and someone with management skills.
Yes.
Because I had a commercial job before that. I had a kind of like
sure. That's what your bachelor was about.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I jumped in, and about 9 months later, the other co-owner, he took off to or we kind of split the two gyms that were currently owned on that at that time. So we split it.
He went that one gym, and we
that
kind of
way,
kept this gym.
Yeah. From that day, that's like over 6 years now.
Yep.
We co-own the gym. Yeah. So
it's like a
perfect
place. Yeah. And two
but
things.
What I need to mention is that before I first became a co-owner, and then a day later, we had a relationship.
You took care of business first.
It's all business. It's all business. Don't let the looks fool you. Don't let the looks fool you.
No.
Yes.
I was first.
Business first.
Business first.
Well, so two things I took away from like what you were saying. One, I mean, you touched on the idea of burnout, which I think is probably really common in fitness, but where you were burnt out on your other job. Is that the truth?
Yeah.
And I've seen that happen before. And I always say, like, if there's something you're passionate about, you're able to work really hard and you don't get burnt out because you're driven by it. Whereas, like, you might work a job in an office that you're drained by. And you're like, I'd rather trade the security from a 9-to-5 job, the hours from a 9-to-5 job that burnt me out for working long days in something that's probably not so secure in an entrepreneurial setting like this. Because for you, you feel passionate.
Yeah, I always say it's about what is it? Energy expenditure and energy, where you get energy takers and energy givers.
Yeah, fill your cup.
So I can work like 50 hours for a regular job, but so hard work, but not get that much out of it energy-wise. Though I had an amazing job, but it still didn't work really well. And when I quitted my job, I obviously worked like 60 or 65 hours, so much more hours, but per week. But I got so much more energized, and that was definitely the thing. Yeah.
And that's a big thing that I think sometimes people figure out too late, right?
Absolutely.
And it's not always too late. Like, we've had coaches start with us in their 40s.
Yeah.
Who left a career behind and were like, I'm so happy I did it. So I would say, if you're listening to this, it probably isn't any such thing as too late. But when you have more responsibilities and more trappings and more things that you're tied to, it becomes harder as you get older.
If you already have a mortgage and 2 kids, it's not easy just to go, hey, honey, you know, finance that I'm really good at, and I got the car and everything. You know what? I'm going to be a painter.
Yeah, exactly.
You
better be Picasso, bro.
You better be painting the Sistine Chapel all over again.
And then something from a business partnership standpoint that is really interesting is, like, you see this a lot. You want to have, there's always the person who might be the dreamer, the person who might be the real passionate person who started, the founder. You see this in big companies a lot, founders that have a vision, but sometimes you need to bring an adult in, right? You need to bring somebody with organizational skills or business and finance skills to continue to level up the business. Like, and like, when I look at Mike and Bob, who own MBSC, like, Mike is all training with a vision of what the gym should be, but Bob runs the day-to-day in the office, the organizational, the billing, the finance, the payroll, everything goes through him on that end. Mike will proudly tell you he's never charged a credit card in all their years in business. And I think ultimately being able to strike a balance with a partner, whether it's your actual partner or your business partner, when you work together to figure out, hey, what are you good at? You do what you're good at, I'll do what I'm good at, and then we'll run the business together, is really important. Because you have to know where your weaknesses are, and you have to know where your partner's strengths are in order to build a business. So you guys seem to have really struck that balance pretty well.
Yeah, and also keeps you out of each other's way. Because if you're both responsible for the same thing, well, obviously we're both responsible for strength and conditioning, but if you're both responsible for example, finances, then it gets lost. You know? So you really need to be kind of like strict. And it doesn't really mean that I have nothing to do with programming. Obviously, I have my own program, like Strong Women, and I do my programming for that. But Noel does the programming for our GPP
regular classes.
Yeah, Gem Club.
My own special program.
And for you, with the military background, were you passionate about fitness first, or was it military that kind of even continued to build your passion for fitness? Because now you obviously have a strong contingent of people here you train for military service. That's definitely kind of a niche that you guys are in.
Yes.
But for you, was it driven from, hey, I need to be fit to do this, or was it something you carried into the Marines?
It's that's going to be. I'm going to try and shorten the answer.
Yeah.
And spoiler alert, I'm going to fail. So I tried to join Special Forces when I was 20 years old, and I failed Special Forces selection in the last week of selection. So I had, there's like 24 weeks, and on like week 23, I quit myself. I quit Special Forces selection, and it kind of devastated me. But I didn't train for that properly. So I wanted to train and perhaps join a different unit. And I was kind of like down in the dumps about it and being hard on myself and et cetera. And then I decided, you know what, I'm going to join the Royal Netherlands Marine Corps, but I'm going to learn from the mistakes I made preparing for Special Forces selection. And I'm going to really dive into this with running, with strength training. Back then it was regular fitness because I didn't know about strength and conditioning. And I basically kind of trained myself along with a friend of mine. ended up becoming a Green Beret, and I ended up becoming a Marine. Well, in the Marine Corps, I always kind of liked training. You can tell from my powerlifting, world champion powerlifting physique, I'm an endurance guy. I enjoy endurance, the training for endurance. So swim, bike, run. Used to do triathlon. Now ultra running, half marathon, marathon. So I kind of trained myself, and I just wanted to get better. I just wanted to improve myself. And through the study I did, I kind of knew about coaching and how to present yourself and how to set up class, etc. And then I just combined my personal experience with courses I did, and then eventually I ended up through kettlebells, through strength and conditioning courses. I just developed more and more knowledge, learned stuff, liked stuff, didn't like stuff, and kind of like experimented on myself. And then also, wanted, especially after Afghanistan, I wanted a place to train, because I finally felt like, okay, so now I'm really going to take this more and more serious along of the other endurance stuff. But that's kind of how I grew into it. It was all kind of like heading the same way. And the military just basically forced me to prepare myself. And then it just kept going. And that's actually why I started my own military prep program and a gym, because I want to now help other people not fail at selection. So, but that's just a different story, and we'll get to that.
Well, and so, I mean, I know that's a big part of what you do. Obviously, not something you're really passionate about. We've talked pretty extensively about that, about your program. And I feel like you're really driven to see these people succeed. You're very personally dedicated to seeing them graduate, seeing them get to the ranks they want. Like when you look in your office and you see all the stuff hung up, you look on the stairs there, you see all the stuff hung up. That is definitely something you identify with strongly. And obviously we talked about like your dedication shows. I think that's also why they come so dedicated. Like we saw people here today, we saw people here yesterday, we saw people here Friday. We're all training for those goals specifically. And what do you find is the biggest challenge in developing the military client, the person who's in the candidate program per se that you work through?
The physical, so we at Breda Strength and Conditioning, we go like, we make people physically and mentally stronger. But the physical aspect is the easiest to train. If you only do the bare minimum, you sleep well, you eat like an adult, you take your recovery serious, and you lift weights and you run, you're going to get better. But everybody that starts selection or a certain whatever program, everybody wants to earn their beret, everybody wants to do well, but the difference is not in the physical. Pretty much everybody's the same, but it's the mental aspect, but it's also the toughest to train. So when I put a lot of emphasis on you want it, the person next to you on day one also wants it, but what are you willing to do before you get to day one? So how hard are you willing to work? And you might need to work out less. You might need to get your nutrition dialed in better. So I'd say the mental aspect, because they all think they're working hard.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks they're cycling fast, and then a motorcycle comes by, and you're like, oh, I'm not going that fast at all. So I will have... we'll have like a group app. We'll have like podcasts. I make them read books, and then they have to like do homework and give me 3 of the main takeaways from the book I give to them. Like, I want you to tell me what you took from this book. Then I want you to apply it. I want everybody to work hard. And that's why I screen pretty carefully, because if there's going to be 6 people in a class, if we have 5 guys just, phoning it in, you're going to be the 6th guy phoning it in. But if 5 guys work hard and you're like, oh, wow, everybody's working hard, you're going to be the 6th hard worker. I'll have people that have earned their beret or I'm currently coaching. I'll have them come in after the program, and they'll share things that they struggle with and how they overcame that obstacle. So I'd say the biggest problem is the mental problem, because you could pretty much get fit and strong anywhere, but I just hold them to a higher standard. And if they're not putting out, I'll just go like, your first warning, you got to do better, and let's do this. Second warning, they're gone. I never Yeah, I had to say goodbye to one guy, but that was just we're not going to get
every
into
now and then you got to do that.
Yes. Luckily, I have a lot of the screening goes very well, and luckily there's a lot of guys that work and girls that work really hard.
That's good.
Yeah.
So, Sanne, the big thing, like you each kind of have your niche, which is really interesting. Like you're with, I mean, obviously we'll get into the whole sickness that you're an endurance athlete in a little while, but you have the military background and then you have the strong women program. And so tell me about what like motivated you to build that. I mean, obviously the fact that you're a woman.
That's actually a funny story. When I started teaching classes about 18 years ago, I started working in a gym behind the counter. So I had to, I could just go there and do every class I wanted, but I didn't coach any classes. Then there was the owner of the gym. She saw something in me, and she was looking for somebody to cover her from time to time. So she said, Sanne, I really want you to do this course. I'm going to educate you, and I want you to be on stage. So you will be presenting the classes. And I was like, what? No, I can't do that because I'm not that kind of girl. And, I was 20 years old. And I was like, hell no. I used to be afraid of loud music and stuff like that. So that's the kind of girl I was. And I was like, no, I can't do that. And she kind of convinced me. She saw something in me that I didn't see. And she kind of convinced me to do that. And so step by step, I became a certified coach to do Les Mills classes and stuff like that. So then fast forward to years later, when I was in my burnout and started working out at Breda strength and conditioning, I was doing all this kind of stuff, putting Atlas stones on my shoulders and lifting heavy weights. And obviously that was kind of like the start of social media. So a lot of my clients who were in my Les Mills classes, they say, wow, Sanne, you're doing all that. I would never be able to do that. And I was like, that's weird because I know what kind of girl I was and I can do it. So, and obviously that's the mistake most people make. Like, if I can do it, then you can do it. But knowing from what kind of background I came, I was like, that's just weird that these girls, these women think that they cannot do this. And at that same point, I was doing my first certified course for strength and conditioning, personal training and stuff like that. And the end assignment was like making a program that you will make the world a little bit better. And that was actually a strong women program. So it was a 12-week program where I got girls coming into strength and conditioning, doing stuff like that, having their nutrition, having their sleep skills, emotion management, stress management, stuff like that. All like the training part in order, the nutrition part in order. Nothing weird, just regular foods. But like Noel said, eat like an adult. And then the mindset in order, and mindset and the lifestyle factors. And people were getting so enthusiastic by hearing about this program that they were like, oh, so you're really going to put this out there? I'm like, no, not really. Well, why not? Yeah, I might do that. So why not? Yeah, so that was approximately 8 or 9 years ago. And I started doing that, and it has been evolving ever since and growing bigger and bigger. And yeah, it's just really nice to see these girls, women, from all different stages in their life. So I have women who are like 20 years old, in their early 20s. And I have my mom and my mother-in-law also training for me like for years. Sweet spot is about 30, 35 to 40 years, obviously. But I have all kind of girls, and I always say girls or women, but always also my mother-in-law and mother, I call them, all right, girls, let's go, girls. This. Yeah.
They're always girls.
Absolutely. So yeah, that's really awesome to see how they start to build confidence. And for example, so to get back to the story I told you earlier, I want to be the woman if somebody needs a little push or to make them believe in themselves. like the owner
I was just about to say
who was pulling me into coaching. I want to be that person for somebody else. If that's what they need to step up a little, only if they want to, of course. I'm not gonna drag them, but if they come to me for help, then yes, obviously I'm going to help them and get better and get stronger, and physically and mentally. Because another thing what I like about that is many women become a mom, obviously not all, but they have friends around them or they have children or whatever. So if you can let that person grow as a person, that translates to everyone around them.
Yeah.
So how awesome is it if I have a mom here and I can build her confidence? That absolutely transfers to their kids. And that's
you exponentially have an impact
exactly
on everyone who they raise.
Absolutely.
And it's funny listening to you saying, I immediately thought of like, you are becoming the way that woman who is your boss,
yes,
you're becoming that to somebody else. And it shows how important it is to have people that you work for or people that you work with who believe in you, even if you are not fully confident, because then now you just gain the confidence to do that for an exponential amount of people after that.
True.
And then going to the whole start with why idea I go back to always with our staff is like, understand why it is what you do for a living, not what.
No.
And not how much money you make. That's a result, but your why. And so what you just said was like, you want to have an impact on generations of women going down. Yeah. And that might sound audacious, but it's actually true, right? Yeah. And those are the type of goals you want. They say big, hairy goals. Right? And so I remember at MBSC when I started, Brendan and I had read Start With Why, and we wrote like, okay, what's our actual why? And it was, I want to spread the power and the positivity that comes with physical activity and exercise to as many people as I can. Yeah. And when I first started, like my what was, I was a high school strength and conditioning coach in a private setting. And like, in my mind, I was like, that's the best job I could ever have. But then I started getting opportunities to do staff education. So exponentially, the reach gets a little further because then I can start to educate people who coach people underneath me. Then I got to do mentorship. So I got to educate coaches from the outside who would go back to where they were from and coach somebody else. So my why didn't change, right? But my what changed as I grew. Now I travel and do this, the CFSC, I do the podcast. I have a much larger reach, but my why didn't change. And so like what I heard was like, you're still on the same why, but your reach is going to continue to grow because you're dedicated to what you want, which is, I think from a career development standpoint, what a lot of people need to think about is like, don't focus on necessarily the money. It's not that money is important, but like you're going to start probably not making as much as you want, and don't focus on the what. All the things you had to do to start a business, that's fine. You know how many podcasts I've had where beers are opening during it? That's fine.
Just so everybody knows, I've been crushing 2 of these, but they're all non-alcoholic beer. So don't think like this dude's like.
It's pretty impressive, the lineup.
Hammering down.
Meanwhile, I have 22 ounces of a 9% or 10%.
10. How do you like it?
It's delicious. I mean, clearly it's terrible. I've already knocked off that much.
We got more in the back. We'll just edit that out. It's like it's like the four beer ones. It's cute. I haven't finished my beer yet. They're just all topper uppers.
Yeah. And so, like, when you define it that way, like your limits to what you could do are unlimited, right?
Absolutely.
Because you keep thinking about like, okay, that my why is here, I achieved it this way. How do I achieve it at the next level? And that's what's really cool to see. So how many years have you been running the program here?
Here, I think I started when I was co-winning. No, just before that. So I
you already had that on paper. Wow. You had it, and then
No, because before I was doing it at another gym.
Yeah, I know. But, and then but that was your end project, and then you did kind of like a pilot, and then you did the actual thing pretty soon afterwards here.
I did a couple of them in Amersfoort, a little north here. And then when I became I think half a year before I became an co-owner, I started my strongman program here.
Yeah, it was definitely less than a year. So
yeah.
And so I would say like I've traveled to a ton of gyms. Like I would say, honestly, I've probably been to more gyms around the world than probably anybody in this industry. Like we've been in 20 something countries. I've been to most of them. We've had all these coaches. And what I really see about gyms that are successful is a few things that I see when I come here. And I think about what we do, but I think about all these other countries I've been to. Number one, there's a palpable culture. There's a way of doing things that reflects the personalities of the people who own it. Like you're both very humorous. Like,
did you hear that?
Yeah.
He said I was funny.
But like, what I mean, there's a certain way that you guys communicate that I think is funny. But I see like you joke with your clients, they immediately get it, right? There's an expectation about behavior and the way things are done. Like you said, everybody always shows up on time, right? There's just your culture. Everyone represents it, right? And I think about our gym. I think about the example I made, like Mark Fisher Fitness. People really care about logistics and the way the equipment is set up. But the first thing I said when someone told me when I posted the video of this place is that place is beautiful. It looks like it has everything you need and nothing you don't. Like it's very clean and organized, right? Number two is logistical. Another thing, like from number three, is you hire personalities. You find people who fit based on personality, not necessarily who has the biggest resume.
Absolutely.
Like people who fit in the culture. And so for you guys, building this gym, like it's definitely a reflection of both of you. If I look around, like it looks like you two belong here. Right? You know what I mean? And which is really interesting. But so from your perspective of gym ownership, like what have been the kind of the growing pains you have gone through as far as building what you see now? Because I think a lot of people would come in here. You've been doing this for 11 years, right? This has been here for 11 years. And people always see like the finished product. Like we talked about the growing pains even at the time that I've been at MBSC last night. People look at the gym and like, oh, this place is amazing. But it's really hard to own a gym. It's a really tough job.
If anybody wants this gym, just reasonable offer. I'll take it.
Yeah, that's what Bob always says. Yeah, give me your best offer. So like for people who, like there's a lot of people who would come in here and think that this is my dream. Like this is exactly what I want. And so from both of you, I'd like to hear both of your perspectives of like what advice would you give them based on your experience? What were the things that were tough? What were the things that were really important? What were the things that you didn't expect in your experience of opening and running and growing a gym? Because this is your second location. You've been doing this for 11 years. So you've seen iterations of what is actually here now that now have made this work and what make you tick today.
Well, let me think about that real quick because I don't have I'd say, so this might be a little bit all over the place. Definitely when I did SEALs, which is like very low kind of like study to become a physical education, be in physical education. Obviously, you just learn to be a trainer of sports. They don't tell you how to run a gym. Up to now, until a couple of years ago, nobody actually told me how to run a gym at all. I think what's really important is that you do something that fits you. If you are not genuine, people will like really like go through that immediately and go like, hey, something's off. So you need to really like what you're doing, and you need to be your own person and kind of make it your business kind of needs to reflect that. Obviously, not everyone's going to go run every day just because I like running, but I like yoga and strength conditioning as well. So I'd say that it's important that you kind of find who you are and then let that reflect in your business. I'd say that it's very important to try and deliver quality in everything. So coaching, communication, social media, your merchandise, the website, the pictures, just everything. If the quality needs to be good, obviously the product needs to be good, which is the coaching, but everything around it needs to be good as well. Now, to be a good coach, you need to do courses, seminars, and education. You need to communicate, be able to communicate. So I'd say you need to be reading or listening to podcasts or try and get better all the time, because otherwise, you're going to suck. You need more tools in your toolkit, your tool belt, than just the one hammer. Yeah. Also, and I think I learned that luckily I have an amazing wife and two great business coaches. You can have the best steak in the world, but if nobody knows the best steak in the world is here, nobody's going to show up. People won't come knocking down your door just because you're a great coach, but if they don't know you're here. So the business end of it as well, and communicating your message needs to all be in line. What's your message? You got to think about your vision and your mission and how you're going to present that. What's your 5-year goal, 10-year goal? All that stuff. I thought it was like, well, I'm going to start a gym. It's going to be easy. You lift weights, you pay, then you can lift the weights. And if you don't pay, you can't lift the weights.
Yeah.
That's not how that goes. No. That's definitely not how that goes.
And one thing I noticed, I said this to you, I said, quality is something I really realized here. Like, you spend time at the logos, you spend time with the merch. You even told me, like, I have the best coffee. The first thing you're like, I have the best coffee. Like, but you take pride in what you deliver, right? And it goes to the how you do anything is how you do everything. Like, it's a quality, like, issue. You care about, like, you clearly took sign. Like, I'll post pictures with the podcast, or I'll maybe do a little video tours. Like, you care about the signage, right? You care about how every little detail looks. And
shout out to our in-house designer who did the look and feel. Actually, I'm going to talk about Tim, who's a friend of mine. His final project for his study had to design a look and a feel of a certain brand. And he asked, hey, can I do this for Breda Strength and Conditioning? We're like, hell yes. So he came up with the new logo, which is the anvil and the hammer and the sparks. And he helped us design where the letters are, what color this is or that is, and how we kind of set up the gym so it would all fit together. So the merch would look the right way, the font would look the right way, the whole gym kind of breathes like, oh wow. If you see a picture of just a small part of Breda Strength and Conditioning, we want people to go like, oh, I know where that is.
Yeah, like you have a distinct image, you have a distinct brand that people know. And another thing that I heard was like, the thing that breaks my heart is when someone comes to MBSC and they go, I didn't even know this place was here.
Yeah.
And you're like, I thought we were doing a good job kind of shouting about it. And like, you realize most of your referrals come from word of mouth, right?
Absolutely.
But there's going to be a lot of people, no matter how good of a job you do, have no idea that this place, when you look around, is here. Yeah. Who could be right down the street.
It's kind of heartbreaking.
And so you're like, I want to yell it from the mountaintops for like, we're right here. Please come and see us. And like you said, as a gym owner, you're just like, no, like people just show up to lift weights.
Yes.
Like you're like us. You're in an industrial park, right?
Yeah.
People don't come driving here, like drive by on their way to go get the groceries, right? If you're coming down here, I mean, there's a bunch of gyms here, obviously in this park, but you're going to the mechanic. You're going to like I see the sand and gravel place or whatever's over there, like whatever. Like you go, that's what you're down here for. You're not driving by mistake. No. At MBSC, we're at on a dead end road of an industrial park at the very end. Yeah. To the point too where this industrial park's recently built enough that the GPS stops. So like if you are trying to find us, like we're not getting any drive-by traffic. So most gyms are in places like this, big buildings. You need high ceilings, you need space. So you're like, you really need to say, like, this is where we are. Social media is given that avenue. Word of mouth is good. But like you said, it opens up your eyes. Like, I didn't know I had to be a marketing person. I didn't know I had to be an advertising person. And so it's a whole eye-opener of someone who's a fitness person who only really identifies with, lifting the weights.
Yeah. So Sanne is going to talk about how, what her things were, obviously, but Sanne came from a marketing background and management background. And the funny thing is that she was like, all right, so I want Noël to be, part of the marketing aspect as well, because you need sales, you need to be a businessman, you need more than I was, so to speak. And then eventually our awesome business coaches, Dan and Joe from Varsity House Gym, Business of Strength, I was like, oh, this is a great idea. So I was like, I did my bachelor's in this, and then you come and
the person under your nose, right? That's standard. So.
Yeah, but that's okay because never coach your loved ones. So also in this case,
and don't date your clients. Don't train your wife.
Okay, that didn't happen, but we screwed up.
We did. We broke the rule. We broke the one rule, and we did it the right way.
Listen, my wife was a CFSC coach who I met at an event, so it's as long as it turns out okay.
Absolutely.
Yes.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. So I was happy that Dan and Joe were there to let you catch up.
Yeah, well, so for your perspective, coming in, like he had a business with a partner that was running, and then you came in, and like I said, like you really could have took on the role of like, this is how we're going to organize things. This is how we're going to market things. This is how, like, what were your challenges in changing the business? Well, because I think there's a lot of people that like might buy into a business or partner with someone, and you're like, these are their habits, but this is what I think is best. So like, I'd love to hear your perspective on that.
So first, we have a very straightforward approach. So I'm not sure how to call it in English, but it's like, niet lullen maar poetsen. So it's
you said no moaning and complaining.
Just do the hard work.
F and go.
So, but that scares a lot of people off. So at first, when I came in, first of all, the memberships were way too low priced. So we were losing money on that. The hours were way too long. We had 1.5 hours.
90-minute sessions.
90-minute sessions. But that means that our coaches had to be paid like 90 minutes. And we were charging way too little for everything. So that's the first thing I had to do when I became a co-owner, and that was not a very popular decision, of course. So cutting back the duration of the class and upping the membership fee.
You look at the margins, thinking,
so that was not a good idea. That was a very good idea, but that was not being. And everybody, what's most important, what we figured out then was communicate clearly. Guys, if you want this place to exist this year, then we have to change things because this is not going the right way. And since everybody was so involved in this gym, they didn't like it, and some people left. But a lot of people also were like, yeah, you're probably right, because this is kind of like not right. So that was one thing that was...
And on that, like, before we get to the next thing, like that's something that a lot of gym owners or personal training need to hear. Like, you have to have those conversations about very directly, whether it's with the client or with the people that work for you. Like you said, like the price needs to go up or the hours need to change. Because at the end of the day, it's about sustainability. Do you want to have a job here in 3 years from now? And I think there's a lot of coaches who might be privately employed, contractors who are afraid to raise their price. And they're like, well, I'm going to lose people. You're going to lose people.
Absolutely.
So,
anyway,
but you're going to gain people too. You're going to have people who a lot of your clients understand. If you break down the price structure, they don't understand how your business works. They just think that they just show up and pay money and you put it all in your pocket. You're like, all of this costs something.
Absolutely.
And somebody needs to pay for it.
And that's what I even tell to our employees is like, okay, let's actually, sitting with your employees, like, this is actually the price structure. You think I walk out of here with a water cap every day. But like, I pay for the electricity, I pay for the heat, I pay the rent, I pay the insurance, I pay all the systems that we have here. And so getting them to understand, I think sometimes treating your staff like owners to an extent and saying, like, this is where the money goes.
Having a certain amount of transparency. That goes very well. I think you take people with you in the process. And then they understand or not, and that's fine too. But I still think it's a very hard subject for me as well.
It's a hard conversation.
Because we're in this business obviously because we're passionate about it, not to make as much money as we can, because then we would have done something different.
I remember when we were talking about, are we going to ask this for personal training? Oh man, am I worth that money? But and I kind of had to, I felt guilty, like, can I charge this? Because I was we're working hard and we were like putting in a lot of hours also on the education side, but you're like, oh, am I going to ask this amount? And then after like a little while, because you need to, develop some speed and momentum and get it going. Eventually, I was like, I'm not trying to be an a-hole about it, but I was like, no, I'm worth this. And if they don't want to pay it, that's fine. That's like, I'll find somebody else. But you need to get that, you need to get over that feeling of, can I sell myself for this price? And if you need another one, just let me know.
The big thing is like understanding, like you said, being confident in understanding that I am valuable, I'm X valuable, because you're putting a number on your time. And in reality, your time is priceless, right? Like you don't get it back.
No.
But if I'm going to give it away to somebody, I want to make sure that like, if I'm working all day, if I'm working 50 hours a week, whatever it is, when I go home at night, I don't want to think like, oh man, I need to make more money if I work my ass off.
I got a quote about that. It says, if I do a job in 30 minutes, it took me 10 years to do it in 30 minutes. You don't owe me for the minutes, you owe me for the years.
So Brendan and I, on a couple podcasts ago, talked about what was called the Boilermaker story. And so Brendan told it probably better than me, but he was saying like there was a guy with like someone had to come and fix a boiler on a ship, and they called a guy and they couldn't get it fixed, whatever. And he comes in and, he looks around and he tinkers a little bit and he tightens one screw and taps on one thing and he goes, all right, that'll be $1,000. And the guy's like, you were only here for 10 minutes. And he goes, yeah, you're paying for my experience. You're not paying for my time. Right. And so I like them having that, people understanding that. And also that speaks to your personal skills. Like if they generally want to spend time with you and you exude confidence in what you do, then you should be worth that amount of money. And I think a lot of coaches don't really believe that they're worth what they're worth. And so I think overall, if you're in this industry, you got to understand that like you have to look at your hours, honestly. How much do I want to work? It goes back to this whole Alan Cosgrove thing where he said, like, work backwards. Like, what is your dream life? What do you want to have? What hours do you want to work? How much time do you want to spend with your family? When do you want to take vacation? And then work the numbers backwards and say, okay, then realistically, how much revenue do we have to gain? How do we pay our employees? Because I think sometimes it's like you said, like you start a gym, you're like, no, people just pay to train and then we just kind of figure it out. And you're like, oh, the numbers don't work. Then you have to have the tough conversation of price is going up.
Yeah. Sorry about that, honey. Yeah.
But you need someone to have the tough conversations, right? Like that's someone has to be able to take that job and be able to talk like that. So that's a really important point.
Absolutely.
Did you have other ones? Did you?
Well, when I look back and what I wish if I had been in this, well, obviously, from the point I did my first strength and conditioning education to the point that I became a co-owner is very, very limited in time. So when I look back, I would have rather seen more places. So that's what I always say to young coaches. Just go to as many places as you can, get internships, go look over somebody's shoulder, just see how they're doing
just shadow them.
Get as much experience in as many target groups as you wish, but just get a broad knowledge and experience of what's out there. So don't start going niche too soon.
I could talk about that. yeah, definitely. Be a good generalist first.
Absolutely.
Really good, because everybody. So I train like a couple of pro athletes, or like one pro athlete and a couple of very competitive athletes. But before you get there, you really need to be able to communicate with people and coach human beings. Because you don't coach weights, you coach the people that lift the weights. Yeah. So definitely, absolutely, just watch all the good coaches. And how do you find good coaching? The social media, websites, whatever. Yeah. Ask politely, email, introduce yourself, and you can get that done.
It's amazing what I went back to UMass. I go back to where I graduated every year, speak to the kin department, and I talk to all the kids.
Yeah.
Who are in the kin program. And for us, it's a really good leader system for us to get interns. Like every year I get interns out of it, which is awesome. But also just to talk to them about that. Like I went through your program. You're going to learn anatomy. You're going to learn basic physiology. You're going to learn biomechanics. You're going to take your gen eds. You're going to party. You're going to learn how to social skills. That's the value of college. Yeah. I said, you're not going to know shit about strength conditioning and working in a business. So you get experience. And that's okay. I didn't either. And so the first thing I say to them is, go apply for an internship. Yeah. When you're during that internship, ask somebody, who else could I go visit? Ask people you're working for.
Exactly.
If you're not interning, do a cold call or an email and be respectful. I'm always very impressed when I get a college kid or a young guy or girl who emails me or calls me and says, hey, I just want to get experience. Yes, please.
Yeah.
You know how many people aren't eager to learn?
Absolutely.
Or get better? No one who you're banging down the door being like, hi guys, could I please come hang out here and help coach for free? You're like, yeah,
Sure.
I would love that. I said, a small business owner would love to hear that.
Yeah.
And so for you, it's priceless. Like my internship experience, I say, was like, I got my 10,000 hours in 3 months. Like I was like, that's what I felt like. I said, fast forward in my career.
Yeah.
And I said, I think interning for us is the best, but I don't care if you want to build your career, just go somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then like you said about trying a lot of different places, like for what I did, like I interned at MBSC. I went to Merrimack College. I interned there in a college setting so I could understand what's the difference.
Yeah.
I had also already worked at a Gold's Gym. I worked at a collegiate strength and conditioning facility back at UMass, and I worked at the gym. So I had a lot of different places.
Yeah.
And so in my head, I always think, like I think about like a chart, like the strength conditioning or fitness personal training universe. Where does everybody fit?
Yeah.
And where do I want to be? Like, okay, there's the pure strength conditioning people over here. There's the more fitnessy people here. There's like the bodybuilding people here. There's the CrossFit type people here. We're all part of the same universe. We're just on different perspectives.
Exactly.
And so I think if you have an idea of what that looks like and you have enough a toe into everything, then you can decide, where do I want to be?
Yeah.
Like where do I fit? What makes me happy? I remember after I was at MBSC, after being there for a while, I'm like, this is where I kind of belong.
Yeah.
It just felt right, the right fit.
But some people might have a different feeling. But if you don't know, you have to at least know what you don't like.
That's a good experience as well.
If it was a failure, like I remember Brendan said, and we were talking about mental toughness in the last, and he goes, mental toughness is finding the good in everything.
Yes.
And
that's the way of
I remember we talked about our stoic approach, right? Mm-hmm. And so, but going, and if you have a bad internship experience, a bad volunteer experience, at least you know that's not what you want to do. At least that's not how you want to communicate or how you want to run your business.
Yeah, exactly.
And so you have to look for value in those things, because then you'll find like, okay, what works really well for me. And I think a lot of people, they get out of college, university, whatever they do, and then they go into a job and they think like, oh, this is what it's supposed to be. I'm like, this is just one experience.
Yeah.
You're supposed to
experiences may vary. Yes.
So you have to figure out where you fit in the industry. And that might take a little while, but the sooner you start trying.
That's true.
I'm going to give a shameless plug that you don't have to do. That's when Brendan's book came out, when your book came out, when we read the books and we combined it with new functional training for sports, I was like, if I had these 3 books earlier, it would have saved me so much heartache and so much pain and trouble. And we're like, oh man. But those 3 books that we recommended to a lot of people, just go like, hey, you want to set yourself up and fast forward like you had with your internship for 3 months and at 10,000 hours. If you want more knowledge, if you want like rules or things you can check off, or like a solid foundation that will set you up for success, read this, apply this, find what works, find what doesn't work for you, and then see what happens. Intern, add value to the team when you intern. You might not have a ton of experience, but if you're willing to work hard, that's great. Yeah. You could be like, oh, I'll cut up these boxes, I'll clean the gym, let me get that for you. You could add value just by being there.
Demonstrate your value. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I always tell our interns, like, when you start, the number one thing I need you to do is know everybody's name.
Yeah.
Go up when you show up, introduce yourself to everybody, whether they're clients, whether they're coaches, figure that out. And then the best thing you can do is, when you find yourself standing still, is say, hey, what can I do for you? And that's the person I'm like, you don't have to know anything about strength conditioning. You don't have to have any degree or experience, but you're eager.
Yeah.
It gets you a long way.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you can't manufacture the want, right? Like they either do or they don't. And that's why internships are so valuable, because anyone can interview well. Anyone can write. You talked about a guy writing a bad resume, right?
Yeah.
Anyone can write a good resume, hopefully, or interview well. But in a few months or a month, you're going to figure out who that person actually is, right? The mask comes off, or the charade goes away, and you're like, this person is a really good worker, really personal, or you're like, probably not a good fit for what we are.
Sure.
And so if you want to get hired, being able to demonstrate that is good. Or if you want to hire in your gym owner, having that opportunity for people is a great way. Because then, nothing's worse than when you hire someone and you're like, this isn't going to work.
Sure.
Because it's costly. You already paid them. Now you have to go hire somebody else. Whereas if you have a lower cost barrier of entry, like an internship, where they're going to get college credits, then you can be like, this person's going to be a good fit.
Well, at the time,
obviously, you make a good point, but I do the same thing with clients. I'm like, I'm going to invest my time. I'm never going to get time back. So if there's someone working here or interning here, I mean, like, the money, that sucks. But I could have spent more time with my wife, with our daughter, with my clients who are awesome, instead of like having this client who's half-assing stuff. I'm like, you just waste my time. That's
well, and you brought up a good point of something we talked about today, is like, once these other things come into your life, your wife, your family, your children, how you value your time significantly changes.
Absolutely.
When you're a single personal trainer, strength and conditioning coach, you can work 70 hours. Like, you could literally, like, we've all done it. You probably burn out, but like a lot of us have probably done it, where you work, every day you're in at like 5:30 or 6, especially in America, morning classes are very popular. And then people want to work out afterwards. So you're working at night and you're working a ton of hours. And you're like, I'm just grinding. The second once you're married, you're like, I should probably spend some time with my husband or my wife. Now you want to, like, you're like, I want to go home and like unwind and like watch Netflix or just like talk and eat dinner and not have to like shove food in my face and go to bed.
That's so.
And then when you have a kid, which I'm looking forward to this experience, you both have a young child, and like how you value your time changes. And so you're like, I'm not going to waste my time managing this person. I'm not going to waste my time training this person, because I want to go home and spend time with my daughter. Because like what you said to me today was very interesting, that like, you're like, I used to almost feel guilty. Like I wanted to like have to work.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a hard time saying no to people, especially if they ask for my help and I'm saying no. That feels like kind of like selfish, like we said. But now that I have Aylin, our daughter, who's now a little over 2 years old, it's so much easier to say no on the days that I'm home with her. I'm not gonna work. Well, maybe I open my laptop for a few emails, but that's when she's asleep, but preferably no, absolutely not. No. And before this, when a client came to me and was like, "Yeah, but I can only train on Mondays and Wednesdays," and even if I didn't have any clients, I was like, "Yeah, okay, I'll be in the gym for those days." And now it's like, no, sorry, but you got to make it work on any other day, because those are my working days and the other days are my days off. So that's a big difference since becoming a mom.
It's the difference in fitness too, is that people think your time is their time.
Exactly.
If you were working in your old marketing job, like you would work Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, and you not answering an email might not be a big deal. No. Friday after 5 p.m. or Monday before 9 a.m. Yeah. But in fitness, it's like, well, this is when I'm available.
Yeah.
And so they have this expectation, the client has this expectation that like, well, this is when I want it, this is when I get it. And you now being a business owner, being able to be like, listen, I can't take you then, but maybe I have another coach who can see you, or I could accommodate you at this time.
Yeah.
And like, because now your other priority is strong enough for you to be like, this is where the things are in order.
Yeah.
And it's very hard for people to be able to rearrange and do that, but it's important, because that's how people get burnt out. Is they like,
absolutely.
I mean, Mike has this saying. He goes, "I've never been to a strength conditioning coach's retirement party." Mike will probably be the first one, right? Like he's the first generation really of strength conditioning coaches, but a lot of them don't make it, or they get divorced, or their family falls apart, or their business falls apart, because balancing the demand of your energy is very, very, very tough to do.
I think a lot of people found that out in the last couple of years with the lockdowns and everything. It's just, you should prioritize I think it was clearly obvious to a lot of people, super obvious to a lot of people, what was worth reintroducing and what was not. And then, also with Aylin, who was born just before like the big pandemic hit here in the Netherlands, or worldwide, actually. You're just like, all right, this I'm going to do, and this is what I'm not going to do.
Yeah.
And you're just more selective, or like Greg McHugh says, the quick no and the slow yes.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hire slow, fire fast is the same thing, right? And so, and that's the thing you need to learn is like, if immediately you don't say absolutely, you're like, then I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
And it's hard. Like naturally, fitness people are people pleasers, right?
Absolutely.
You have service mindset. You want to give. You want to help. But at some point, you're like, I'm emptying my own cup to fill somebody else's, and that becomes a problem.
A while ago, I was in a podcast, the Softly podcast, performance podcast, and we talked about the first couple of years you take on every client, and you just coach your behind off.
Yeah.
And then the next couple of years, I said like 0 to 5 years, you coach everybody. The next 5 years, 5 to 10 years, you kind of get more selective. And right now, well, I'm talking maybe just my position, your position as well, I guess. We're just like, I'm very selective. So I only coach like maybe like 10 people like very intensely for special force selection or Marine Corps, like extra stuff, you know. But these people, I'll be on my phone a lot, and sometimes even usually in the weekend as well. But at sometimes like it's like 9 or 8 o'clock in the evening, enough already. It'll be there in 6 in the morning. But if it's like super urgent, then I'll tell someone like, okay, I really have to take this. But that also helps. With the clients, you expect a lot from them, but they can expect a lot from you as well. But you have to really like, if something's going on with Alan, unless the gym is on fire or you're on fire, I don't really care.
Yeah, it's important to have boundaries with your time and your energy. And I think setting those, you said tough conversations, setting those with clients very early and setting those with people you work with very early, like this is what is acceptable, this is what's not acceptable, this is the way we work. The second you get the ones out of the way early, the rest of your relationship is easy.
Absolutely.
It's when there's ambiguity around what is our relationship that it gets very tough, because then someone becomes a line stepper, right?
Yeah,
and you
exactly.
have to figure out where to
No, people that give should set boundaries, because people that take don't have any boundaries.
That's the quote right there. Well. And so what's really interesting to me is like you guys have niches, right? And another one that you have is the endurance athlete thing. And like, I'm sure a lot of that, I don't know if that was going into the military or after, but like you were, obviously military has an endurance demand, but triathlete and now marathoner, ultra marathoner, things like that. And how is that tied in to your fitness business, and how has that made you a better coach? Like, I think it probably gives you perspective on things that are difficult. It's obviously giving you a clientele, because I know you work with some other endurance athletes, but how do those things two kind of tie in together for you?
Well, I guess it's just a literally a runaway hobby. So I know I got dad jokes. So what I wanted to say was I was never really, I kind of like enjoyed running. I was like 18 years old and kind of preparing to get into Special Forces selection. And then I saw, like I ran in school, some stuff, but I wasn't really good at it. And then I saw something on the TV, which was the finish of the Ironman World Championship. And anybody that has a little bit of history, knowledge of history of the Ironman World Championship, there's like a race where one of the female athletes crawled across the finish line, and it was like, and she got passed in the last couple of 100 meters, and somebody else won, and the girl was on the lady was on the floor just crawling towards the finish line, and I was like, that's insane. Ironman and full triathlon, and I was like, I wonder if I can do that, the 3.8 mile swim. I don't know. Somebody else do the math. The 180K bike and the full marathon. And the next morning, like very early, I just started running. Like, I'm going to run. Let's see if I can do this. After 400 meters, I was like, done. Walked back in defeat. And we're like, oh, next day, try again. And I really started learning to enjoy training for endurance. But it was more, not just like the physical aspect, it was the mental aspect as well, because I run without any music on, like a psychopath. So I'll just listen to my body, and I listen to my steps, and listen to the voice inside my head. And that basically just the boundary or that limit or that ceiling just kind of went up and up and up, and did half marathons, 10K, but like at a very fast, or for my doing, a very fast pace. And I always kind of just kept moving that bar, or that goal up more and more. So eventually I did the World Championship, half Ironman twice. I did one full Ironman, which was the European Championship. And I got my question answered was, could I ever do a full Ironman? And I finished, and I was just like, oh, wow, I guess I can do this. But just seeing where my physical and mental, where the line was, and creeping up or pushing that line further was really something I enjoy. So now I quit triathlon. And my wife's very excited about that. So I did my full Ironman, and I kind of was like, I'm not really enjoying. I tried training for triathlon and half and full Ironman. Still found it not to be that rewarding anymore. Actually, it felt more like a chore. And if some endurance athletes are listening to this and triathletes are listening to this, they might agree when I say, when a triathlete tells other triathletes, like, hey, I'm going to stop triathlon, it's almost like a guilt. You feel like you have to kind of like explain yourself why you're trying to get out. Yeah, I'm sorry, everybody, I'm going to quit triathlon. But it's weird if you think about it. This is something you should enjoy. And I do enjoy coaching my pro triathlete. I do coaching my age group athlete. I love triathlon. I just don't love doing triathlon anymore. It's like a crazy ex. It's like
you, it's me.
So now for me, what I felt like it was taking away too much energy from the family, from the business, from me personally. And then I said, like, all right, I'm just going to sell my bike and it's no more swimming and just run 3 times a week. My energy was up. My stress level was down. My resting heart rate was down. I felt so much better, more focus and more rest. And now I kind of went like, well, what else can I do? Now I'm running marathons for shits and giggles. I just ran a marathon like 3 weeks ago, and like 2 days later I was running up. No, the day after I was running up the stairs and doing bounds and hops and jumps. Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. And getting into ultra. So I talked about this yesterday.
Yeah,
I was going to do my first ultra. So for the people that don't know, a marathon is like 42.2 kilometers, and everything over marathon distance is an ultra. And then it's basically a 50K is like the shortest ultra you can do. I was supposed to do my first ultra because I thought, okay, let's get into this. I'm very excited about this. No more triathlon, ultra. Ultra trail is very friendly for your ligaments and your tendons and your muscles because it's like unpaved. It's like on trail.
Yeah.
There's nature. There's like little hills, etc. So the experience is different instead of starting line as fast as you can to the finish line. It's more about the experience.
You're enjoying the environment that you're going through.
Think about what you just said. You're enjoying endurance, being out there. So I signed up for my first 50K pretty close by, but unfortunately I've been training for it. My triathlon, my endurance coach is actually my pro triathlete. He trains me and I coach him. He coaches me. I'm a strength coach. He's my endurance coach, and he coached me towards it. And I was like aching to go. The 50 kilometer was about to happen, but the night before there was a big storm, like a really big storm here in the Netherlands, and it was like weather alert with like code red and everything. Like, oh, this is no joke. So it got canceled like 12 hours before the race. I was like,
it's like a heartbreaker.
Yeah. For me, I was like, oh, this is happening. So what I did was, so I didn't do this for nothing. I want to see, if I can manage this 50 kilometers. And someone was like, you're going to do 50 kilometers? I'm like, it's only like 7 kilometers further than the marathon. I ran 45, so it's only 5 kilometers more than that.
It's only like this day.
So, Sanne was like, you're going to do 50K? I'm like, a lot of people, I'm not saying Sanne, but a lot of people are like, 5K hurts. So that means 50K hurts 10 times as much. I'm like, that's not how that works. But, you'll find out. If you know, you know.
But you think you project that fear.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But it's not just that you're doing 50K. You're about to do 50K by yourself.
Yes. So here it comes. So I was like to Sanne, like, no, you can feel shitty at like the 10K mark, and your legs might be gone for 5K, and your legs might come back, and you might have a great extra like 30 kilometers after that. So I was, yeah, she's like, you might just be speaking Klingon. Yeah, you might just be speaking like a whole different language. Like, all right. So, and I was like, Sanne, we had people jump in and coach my classes and my personal training clients. I had the car, I had all the stuff like nutrition laid out. I was like, no, I'm going to run 50K. So couldn't race the race. Basically went to the local forest where I train for my trail running and went like, all right, I guess I'm running 50 kilometers. And then I got up I started running at 7 o'clock in the morning. So I had to run with my headlight on because it was pre-dawn. And yeah. So, you know,
that was fun, huh?
Yeah, I ran 50. So I ran 50 kilometers by myself. No music, no people cheering. It was just me and 50. It's almost 6 hours of running.
And what was the biggest distance you had run prior to that? Like, was it a marathon distance, or had you run?
Yeah, 45. But that was like a year ago, a year before. So I knew.
You knew this was further than you've ever done.
Yes, and it was solo. And I'm not like, look at me. But there's definitely, I'd say, it kind of gets me emotional, but I'd say layers get stripped away, like you said, like Shrek with an onion. Layers get peeled back because if you're out by yourself that long, and it's like physically you can do it because ultra running is about 70% is mental and 30% is physical. But there's nobody around. Nobody cares if you make it. Nobody cares if you quit. And it's like real easy to quit. And it's going to go ups and downs with your energy, but also with your mental like state. You're going to be like, it's real tough. But I would say the 50 kilometers ultra that I ran solo, it's like in the same like order of finishing my full Ironman. Well, there's like thousands of people were around in Frankfurt. It was so busy. Someone was there as well. It was awesome. But that 50K is like the complete opposite. Nobody around it. You're like, I just ran 50.
What you probably gained out of it is a very different thing, right? Like when you were telling me yesterday how like you would run by your car.
Yes.
Yeah.
How easy is it at, you're like, oh, all right, well, I've done 25K or I've done 30K. I could just get in the car right now. I could go home. But you could not live with yourself by saying, I just stopped. From the mental exercise for you to say, oh, I'll have my little gel, I'll have my Snickers like you like to have, and then be like, I'm going to keep running.
I ran 26K, and then I had to stop by the trunk, and then had a Coke and had a Snickers. Then I ran another 14K. And then I ran 40 kilometers, and I knew I had to do the last 10K, which was going to be the toughest 10K. And it wasn't going very smoothly, and I didn't consume enough calories. And I was like, nobody cares if I run the next 10K, which is going to take me over an hour right now on the trail and like very fatigued. And I was like, remembering what I asked my clients, like, what do you tell yourself when it gets tough? What are you going to say to yourself? What do you tell yourself and go like, hey, it's what it is, man. Just get this done.
Say, what was your internal dialogue to yourself at that point? Like, I already signed up. I already said to myself I was going to do this.
Yeah. I before I started, I was like, no matter what happens, unless it's like a medical thing, I'm like, I've decided already before I even take my first step, I'm going to finish this whole thing. Doesn't matter how long it takes me. I'm finishing 50 kilometers. So I already decided I was going to make it, and all I had was to just do it.
The decision was over already.
Yes, and what kind of coach would I be asking my clients that want to go through selection? Like, what kind of example would I be? But I still need, after being in the Marine Corps, after being on deployment, after doing an Ironman, full in 2 halves or 2 World Championship half, I still need to feel uncomfortable. I still need a worthy goal that I need to like work towards.
The uncommon, right? Like you need something to work towards.
Yes, but really, like even like I'm not sure if almost even spiritually, I need something to wrestle with that nobody else You can't buy finishing 50 kilometers. You can't. It's the only one way to do this, and it's to push yourself. And I need to be uncomfortable in that way. Otherwise, my wife's going to kill me because I'm going to be like, I'm not going to be like the gem, the joy that I am.
But I think what you hit on was what a lot of people look for. It might not necessarily be endurance running.
No.
It might be a business project. It might be their children. It might be something that they are tied to that keeps them moving forward.
Absolutely.
And it could be running. It could be a lot of different things. And it's that you have something that gets you out there every day.
Yeah.
It's a business. It's your kids. It's your wife. It's the running. But they're all a piece of that. And I think you have something that, like when you were talking about yesterday about endurance running, about the mental, you're like, I like being alone at that time so I can think, right?
There's no escaping from yourself. No.
Yeah, and everyone needs to have that, I think, in some capacity for their own mental security.
Yeah, to push yourself a little further than where you thought you would have gone.
Yeah, and you have to be okay with going to a little bit of a dark place or a little bit of an uncomfortable place because that's where the change is really going to happen. You're not going to be comfortable on your couch. I mean, you'll be comfortable on your couch, but you're not going to change on your couch. You're not going to gain.
That's actually the definition of passion.
Right, yeah.
You have to be willing to suffer.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it's not a passion.
Yeah.
It's just a nice feeling of the day, for
just
example.
a hobby.
But then it's just a hobby. But if you have a passion, and it's worth suffering for, and whether that's strength and conditioning or being a coach or running, ultras, or
raising
whatever.
2 kids, 3 kids by yourself or whatever. You know, it could be,
Interesting.
Yeah, you got to get past the comfort.
Yeah.
I'd say like, especially in those last 10 kilometers, that was worth. You need to be really tired, really uncomfortable, and then you find out what's going to happen and what you're made of and what lies underneath. And that's where those first 40 kilometers weren't that. That's not special. It's the last 10 kilometers that makes it special because then there's no more hiding. You can't be like, oh, everything's going great. Meanwhile, everything was not going great. But you find out, and that's what your passion will get you. And for me, that's the thing, and being uncomfortable, I guess. You choose to be uncomfortable. I think Tim Ferriss said that. The more voluntary suffering you introduce in your life, the less non-voluntary suffering will affect your life.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's a good way to end it. So, guys, that was really enjoyable. Thank you. Thank you for being a great host, great couple of hosts for me. This place is amazing. Obviously, we'll be back, like we discussed.
Hell yeah.
Thank you for listening to this. This will probably come out week after next. So This was awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having us on.
Absolutely.
Thanks, man.
Team high five.
Team high five.
Perfect.